Good day, Deep Inward family. Welcome to day 164 of our Bible study review. Today we're going through chapters 27 through 29 of the book of Ezekiel. Before we open up chapter 27, let's remember where we left off yesterday in chapter 26. We know that there was a prophecy against Tyre, right? A judgment against Tyre, that the king of Babylon would come up and, make it a desolation. And so chapter 27 is to take up a lamentation for Tyre, because this once beautiful place that is so rich with all of the riches from all of the other nations is going to be brought low. So let's open up and start reading from verse 1. It says, "The word of Yahuwah came again to me, saying, Now you, son of man, take up a lamentation over Tyre, and say to Tyre, who is situated at the entrance of the sea, who is a merchant of the peoples for many coastlands, thus says Yahuwah Elohim, O Tyre, you have said, I am perfect in beauty. Your borders are in the midst of the seas. Your builders have perfected your beauty." So let's stop and talk about Tyre, this beautiful city, for a moment. What made their point of location such an advantage is because it was right there along the sea coast. Now, they were neighbors to Judah. They were neighbors to all of Israel. It's right there in that same strip of land, right next door. And they were the Phoenicians. Now, there was nothing particularly special about the Phoenicians themselves, other than other nations brought all of their riches through her. And so they were known for their ships. It says the ships of Tarshish, right? And so that was their trade. They built ships and then they would trade with other nations all of their riches: silk, embroidered fabrics, silver, gold. But one of the things that you will see is that they also traded people. They took people forcefully and made them slaves. So there was slave trade going on. And so the king of Tyre, the Phoenician, right? He was actually ruled over the principality that was over him. Now, the principality over him was Satan, all right? The root word for principality is prince, set of principles, right? So we follow the Prince of Peace, but there's another prince, and it's the Prince of Darkness. Now, the Phoenicians were polytheists. They worshipped all types of gods, but their main squeeze was Baal, or Baal, right? Now, you have to remember who the princess of the Phoenicians were, and it was Jezebel. Jezebel was married to King Ahaz of the northern tribes of Israel, right? And so she led the children of Israel into Baal worship, right? This is back in the time when we were reading about Elijah, the prophet, and he put over 450 prophets of Baal to death, right? He was ready to chase Satan's influence out of his people's camp. That's the history of the Phoenicians. Now, I have a video attached in the description box below that gives more history about the peoples. Please check it out. But as you read through the chapter, you will see that even Judah traded with the Phoenicians, right? Wheat, honey, all of the riches of Israel were brought into this coastland to trade with other merchants, right? Let's pick up and start reading from verse 25. It says, "The ships of Tarshish were the carriers for your market, and you were filled and were very glorious in the midst of the seas. Your rowers have brought you into great waters. The east wind has broken you into the midst of the seas. Your riches and your wares, your merchandise, your mariners and your pilots, your caulkers and the dealers of your merchandise, and all your men of war who are in you with your company, which is in your midst, shall fall into the midst of the seas in the day of your ruin." Verse 28, "The meadowlands shall shake at the sound of the cry of your pilots. All who handle the oar, the mariners and all of the pilots of the sea shall come down from their ships. They shall stand upon the land, and they shall cause their voice to be heard against you, and shall cry bitterly, and shall cast up dust upon their heads. They shall wallow in ashes. Also they shall make themselves utterly bald for you, and gird themselves with sackcloth. And they shall weep for you with bitterness of heart and bitter wailing. Also, in their wailing, they shall take up a lamentation for you and lament over you, saying, Who is like Tyre, like her who is silent in the midst of the sea? Verse 34, it says, now that you are broken by the seas in the depths of the waters, your merchandise and all of your company in your midst have fallen. All of the inhabitants of the coastlands shall be astonished at you, and their kings shall be surely afraid. They are troubled in countenance. The merchants among the people shall hiss at you. You shall be a terror, and you shall cease to be forever. What modern day city can we liken to Tyre? Maybe New York, right? Remember before the towers fell, right? New York is a port, and all of the riches of the other nations are brought in to her ports, right? And then we had the world trade centers where all of the earth was trading with her, right? New York was known as this once glorified city, right? And you see the deterioration slowly happening in the city of New York. You can see that maybe this is kind of likened to that. Now, you can look on videos here on YouTube about the ancient city of Tyre and what it looks like now. When our Father speaks a word, he means it. His words do not fall to the ground. Chapter 28 opens up, and it is a prophecy against the king of Tyre. Now, the first portion is talking about the natural king of Tyre, and then it switches over and talks about the principality that is over the king of Tyre. So let's just start reading and get into it. All right, let's start from verse 1. The word of Yahweh came again to me, saying, Son of man, say to the leader of Tyre, thus says the Adon, Yahweh, because your heart is lifted up, and you have said, I am God. I sit at the seat of gods in the midst of the seas, yet you are a man and not God, though you set your heart as the heart of God. You are wiser than Daniel. There is no secret that is a match for you. With your wisdom and with your understanding, you have obtained riches for yourself, and have obtained gold and silver into your treasuries. By your great wisdom, by your trade, you have increased your riches, and your heart is lifted up because of your riches. Verse 6, therefore, thus says Yahweh Elohim, because you have set your heart as the heart of Elohim, therefore I will bring strangers upon you, the most cruel of nations, and they shall draw their swords against the beauty of your wisdom and defile your brightness. They shall bring you down to the pit, and you shall die the death of those who are slain in the midst of the seas. Now he could possibly be talking about the slave trade, right? Because that's what he was doing. He was taking people forcefully from their lands and selling them for slave labor. All right. Right here in verse 9, let's continue. Will you yet say before him who slays you, I am God? Although you are not a God, you are man. In the hands of those who wound you, you shall die the death of the uncircumcised by the hand of strangers, for I have spoken, says the Adon, Yahuwah. Those who make themselves rich by unjust gain will fall. They will pay for that, and they will pay by the hands of Yahuwah. Now that was the portion speaking a prophecy against the king of Tyre, the natural king. Now this portion that we walk into, starting with verse 11, is actually addressing Lucifer, or Satan himself, the principality over the region, controlling the decisions of the natural-born king. All right, so let's start reading. Moreover, the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, take up a lamentation over the king of Tyre, and say to him, Thus says the Adon, Yahweh, you had the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of Elohim. Every precious stone was your covering, the sardius, topaz, the diamond, the beryl, the onyx, the jasper, the sapphire, the emerald, the carbuncle, and gold. The workmanship of your settings and sockets was in you. On the day that you were created, they were prepared. You were the anointed cherub that covers, and I set you there. You were upon the holy mountain of Elohim. You walked up and down the midst of the stones in the fire. You were perfect in your ways from the day that you were created until iniquity was found in you. By the multitude of your merchandise, you were filled with violence in your midst, and you sinned. Therefore, I cast you as the profane out of the mountain of Elohim. I have destroyed you, O covering cherub, from the midst of the stones of fire. Your heart was lifted up because of your beauty. You have corrupted your wisdom by reason of your brightness. Now, Lucifer means light bearer, right? And he was the high priest unto Yah. Do you see that? There are 9 stones present out of the 12 stones that were in the Levitical priestly breastplate, right? This should set off an alarm in your spirit. You should know why he hates you so much. But let's keep reading. We'll dig deeper in just a moment. It says, I cast you to the ground. I lay before you kings, and they may see you. You have defiled your sanctuaries by the multitude of your iniquities, by the iniquity of your trade. Therefore, I have brought fire out from your midst. It has devoured you, and I have turned you to ashes upon the earth, in the sight of all those who see you. All those who know you among the people are astonished at you. You are terror, and you shall cease to be forever. This is a prophecy against Satan, who used to be the high priest unto Yah. Let's quickly review Isaiah chapter 14, starting in verse 12, just to couple up with who he was, right? So it says right here, how you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning, how you are cut down to the ground, you who weaken the nations. For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of Elohim. I will sit also on the mount of the congregation in the recesses of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet you shall be brought down low to hell, to the sides of the pit. Those who see you shall stare at you and ponder over you. Is this the man who made the earth tremble and shook kingdoms, who made the world as a wilderness and destroyed its cities, who did not open the house of his prisoners, right? This is talking about Satan. And yes, he does weaken the nations because he knows why you and I were created. We were created to worship and praise the Most High. We were created to be his royal priesthood, to bring him praise. Now, Lucifer, he was kicked out of his home, right? He lost his domain, so he is homeless, y'all. Now, he lost his job title as well as priest. And now he is roaming about the earth, accusing the brethren of why we also are not fit for the priesthood. That is why he hates you so much. He knew the Father's plans to make us a royal priesthood, and he hated that idea. He refused to serve mankind, to bring praise unto Yah. But y'all, after the 1,000-year millennial reign, because Satan will be locked up for 1,000 years into a pit. He won't be able to deceive the nations. And then after 1,000 years, he is let loose, right? And then he finds all the rebels in the earth that do not want to worship the Most High. They come up against Jerusalem, and fire comes down from heaven and consumes them. And then the great white throne of judgment happens, and Satan is thrown into the lake of fire. And it says that we will witness that. It says we will see it, right? And then all of those who are with Messiah, right? We will question, is this the one who made the whole earth tremble? Is this the one who brought trouble? It'll kind of be like The Wizard of Oz, if you've ever seen that movie. Everyone was so terrified of this image that they saw, and then they saw it was a puny little man behind the curtain. That's how we will look upon him, right? With pity. Deep and Word family, please see the other attached video about the study of the 9 stones that were in the chest of Lucifer, right? And how they compare to the 12 stones and why there were 3 missing. There is a beautiful study, and I promise you it'll make you jump for joy, just having a deeper revelation about these things, about who you are, about why he hates you so much, right? We're taking over his position, right? And those who answer the call and do it well, we're putting him to shame, right? Because we did not come into this earth perfect. He was made perfect, but he fell because of iniquity, and he is the one who made man fall. He is the one who has deceived every single last one of us. But those of us who overcome, we overcome by our testimony, right? And we overcome by the blood of the Lamb. This will be a major showdown at the very end, that those of us who overcome the desires of our flesh and we're born of our spirit, and we prove and show to the Most High that we are worthy to be called his priesthood, because we live our entire lives as a living sacrifice to the one true El. I may attach a few more videos in the description box, but y'all, please take your time with today's message. Do not rush through. This is something you want to have a revelation about. It will set you free. And when you know who you are and you start walking in that authority, all of hell trembles when they know your name, when you know that you know who you are, who you belong to, what your job title is, and that your forever home will be the new Jerusalem, right? The heaven that he will never see. He made 1/3 of the angels fall. He convinced 1/3 of the angels that they would be given higher positions with him, right? That they could be better off with him, right? Following him and his army. And they all got kicked out, right? They all got kicked out. And now all of those spirits, all of those principalities take up regions over the earth. And that's what they try to do. They try to find a home inside of us because they're homeless. Y'all, don't let them live on the inside of you. Only let the Holy Spirit live through you and utterly make hell shake by not giving them a foothold in your life. All right, let's get back to the reading and close out chapter 28 so we can walk into chapter 29. All right, so now there is a prophecy against Sidon, and Sidon is one of the cities of Tyre, and you will see that in the video about the Phoenicians, so please check it out. But let's keep reading in verse 20. It says, "Again, the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Son of man, set your face towards Sidon, and prophesy against her, and say, Thus says Yahuwah Elohim, I am against you, O Sidon, and I will be glorified in your midst, and they shall know that I am Yahuwah, when I execute judgments in her, and display my holiness in her. For I will send pestilence into her, and blood into her streets, and all of the wounded shall fall in her midst by the sword upon her on every side. And they shall know that I am Yahuwah. The whole world shall know that he is the only Elohim." Okay? So verse 24, it says, "There shall be no more pricking briar to the house of Israel, nor any painful thorn among all who are around them, who despise them," right? So Sidon, Tyre, all of them were next door neighbors to Israel. And yes, they poked and prodded at them. All right. Jezebel was one of them. All right. Let's keep reading. "Then they shall know that I am Yahuwah." He keeps repeating it. Everyone is going to know my name. Everyone will know that there's no other besides me. And then the chapter ends with a blessing for his people, Israel. And so it says, "Thus says Yahuwah Elohim, when I gather the house of Israel from the peoples among whom they are scattered, and display my holiness in them in the sight of the nations, they shall dwell in their land that I have given to my servant Jacob. They shall dwell safely in it, and shall build houses and plant vineyards, and dwell securely when I execute judgments on all of those around them who despise them. They shall know that I am Yahuwah, their Elohim." Now, this hasn't happened yet, because those living in the land, they're not dwelling securely. This happens when our Messiah returns. Our Messiah, on the day of atonement, right? He is going to enter into judgment with all of the nations there, right? So the prophet Joel talks about that, and we will get into detail speaking of that prophecy. But first comes the Feast of Trumpets, when our bodies are changed in the moment, in the twinkling of an eye, right? And then our Messiah starts to continue to do this beautiful work inside of his priesthood. But before he sets up his kingdom, he is going to judge the nations, right? And then we have the Feast of Tabernacles, all right? So Feast of Trumpets is the 5th holy feast. Then there's the Day of Atonement, when they will be judged, right? That's the 6th. And then the 7th comes the Feast of Tabernacles, the wedding feast of the Lamb. And now chapter 29 is a prophecy against Egypt. So let's start reading from verse 1. And I'm going to skip around the chapter, but I'll let you know where I am. So verse 1, it says, "In the 10th year, in the 10th month, on the 12th day of the month, the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, set your face against Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and prophesy against him and against all Egypt. Speak and say, Thus says Yahweh Elohim, I am against you, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, the great dragon that lies in the midst of his rivers, which has said, The Nile is my own. I have made it myself. But I will put hooks in your jaws, and I will cause the fish of your rivers to stick to your scales, and I will bring you up out of the midst of your waters, and all of the fish of your rivers shall stick to your scales. I will abandon you in the wilderness, you and all of the fish of your rivers." And now he is saying pretty much that the Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, is the fish, and all of the other fish are the people who follow him and place their trust in him. And he says, I will make all of the fish who are the people of your seas, of your Nile, right, fall desolate. He says, I will make them food for the beasts of the land. Now let's go to verse 6. It says, all of the inhabitants of Egypt shall know that I am Yahweh, because they have been a staff of reed to the house of Israel. When they took hold of you by your hand, you broke and tore all of their hands. And when they leaned upon you, you broke and made all of their legs shake. Therefore, thus says Yahweh Elohim, I will bring a sword upon you and cut off man and beast from you. The land of Egypt shall become a desolation and waste. Then they shall know that I am Yahweh. Because you said, the Nile is mine, and I have made it. Therefore, I am against you and against your rivers, and I will make the land of Egypt an utter waste and desolation. No foot of man shall pass through it, nor foot of beast shall pass through it, nor shall it be inhabited for 40 years. And I will scatter the Egyptians among the nations and disperse them among the countries. For thus says Yahweh Elohim, at the end of 40 years I will gather the Egyptians from the peoples wherever they are scattered, and I will turn the fortunes of Egypt and will cause them to return to the land of Pathros, into the land of their origin, and there they shall be a debased kingdom. It shall be the basest, right? So he's saying you are going to be a basic kingdom, right? And he says you will no longer exalt yourself above all of the other nations. Your former glory will never return to you again. Let's keep reading. For I will diminish them so that they shall rule over the nations no more. It shall be the confidence of the house of Israel. Now remember, Jeremiah the prophet was forcefully taken to Egypt with the rebellious ones who called out, right? They were inquiring of Yahweh, and he told them, don't go to Egypt. I will find you there and I will destroy you. But they didn't listen. They went anyways. So Yahweh is going to catch the rebellious Israelites there as well. Verse 17. And the 27th year in the first month, on the first day of the month, the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, caused his army to labor hard against Tyre. So Babylon went against Tyre. But it says here, every head was made bald and every shoulder was peeled. Yet he and his army had no wages from Tyre for the labor that he had done against it. So he came against Tyre, but he did not receive much bounty from it. And so this is the result. This is what Yahweh says right here. Therefore, thus says Yahweh Elohim, I will give the land of Egypt to Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and he shall carry off her wealth and take her spoil and take her as prey. And it shall be the wages for his army. I have given him the land of Egypt for his labor, with which he has labored against it, because they acted for me, says Yahweh, right? So the king of Babylon is acting as the agent to judge his own people and the surrounding nations. Verse 21. On that day, I will cause the horn of the house of Israel to spring forth, and I will open your mouth in their midst. They shall know that I am Yahweh. So he says at that point, Ezekiel is going to open up his mouth, right? And all of those who rebelled against Yahweh, they will know that the words that Ezekiel prophesied in their midst are absolutely true. And they will know that Yah is not a man that he shall lie. He is Elohim. I know that was a lot to take in, but please take your time with today's message. And please check out the videos in the description box below. It will help you piece together and recognize who you are and why you are hated so much by your adversary. Deep in Word family, that's all that I have for you today. Until tomorrow, Yah bless.